This problem from the cash module deals with the bank reconciliation process. This problem will be similar to those that you find in your textbook dealing with bank reconciliation. Our problem statement is that the general ledger cash account from Boo Boo Picnic Baskets delivery on June 30th, 2000X shows a balance of $67,1835. The bank statement for the same day shows a balance of $75,4825. Our job is to prepare a bank reconciliation using the template provided on the following tab and to journalize the necessary entries. Here we see the outstanding omissions and errors that were found in the bank reconciliation process, similar to those that will be given to you in problems from your textbook. And here we see the bank reconciliation record that we're going to use to record and rectify these changes. All right, when we look at the transactions that we need to record, the first thing we have to do is record our beginning balances according to the problem statement. And here we see that the company's beginning balance shows a cash balance of $67,1835. So we'll record that here, $67,1835, and we need to record the beginning balance according to the bank records, which comes from the bank statement, $75,4825. So we have our beginning balances that don't match. Our job is to work through the omissions and errors that are found in the bank reconciliation process and come up with an ending balance where our bank records match our depositors' records. So we look at our first one here is outstanding checks totaled $1496.90, and we know from our lecture that outstanding checks are a deduction from the bank record side, and here we see outstanding checks, and our deduction amount is $1496.90. Our second is deposits in transit totaled $27.55, and again from our lecture we know that deposits in transit are always an addition to the bank record side. So deposits in transit, the total amount there was $27.55. Looking on to our next issue to come up, a credit memorandum for a note collected by the bank totaling $27.55 has a face value of $2,500. And we know from our lecture again that credit memorandums add to the balance according to the depositor's records. So we have note collected, and the amount there was $27.55. We'll need to know the face value of that note when we go to do our journal entries, but for right now we just need to know the total amount collected. The credit memorandum was for $27.55. The next item in our problem is a check from ABC Company was returned and a debit memorandum was issued for $500. That's a non-sufficient funds. We know from our lecture that debit memorandums from the bank subtract from the bank balance according to the depositor's records. So here we have a debit memorandum for a non-sufficient funds check from ABC Company, and the amount there was $500. Our next item here is item E, and it says check number 2293 was keyed in as $250 when the actual check was written for $25. So this is an error, and the first step in our process is to determine who the error was caused by. And in this case, the error is on the bank side. They keyed it in improperly. It was keyed in as $250. The actual check cleared for $25. So the next step is to determine, are we going to add or subtract money from our bank account on our bank reconciliation on the bank side. And in this case, we need to add back money into our account. $250 was taken out when only $25 should have been taken out. So we need to add $225 back into our account. So under the bank's record side, in the additions, we have an error in recording check number 2293. The amount we're adding back in is the difference, $225. The next item we have here is that check number 2235 was keyed in as $435, and the actual amount of the check was $453. Again, whose error was this? And it was keyed in improperly by the bank, so it's the bank's error. And it was keyed in at $435 when $453 should have been taken from the account. So it is the amount that we've keyed in is too small. We need to take money out of the account. The question is how much? And it's the difference between what was taken out and what should have been taken out. 453 should have been taken out minus 435. The difference there is $18. So on the bank reconciliation, on the bank side, less error in recording check number 2235 this time, and the amount is a subtraction of $18. That was item number F. Item G says a transaction to record accounts payable to XYZ Supplies was recorded incorrectly in the journal. The journal shows $210. The actual check was $120. Again, another error. The question is, whose error was this? And this time the error is on the company side or the depositor's side. It was recorded in the journal incorrectly. And so we know this is going to be a correction on the depositor's side of the bank reconciliation. The next question is, are we going to add or subtract? And here the journal entry shows $210. We took $210 out of our cash account. The check was actually for $120. So we took too much out of our account by $90. So we're going to add $90 back into our account according to the depositor's records. So here we have an error. This was to XYZ Company. And the amount is $90 that we're adding back into our account. The next item on our bank reconciliation is H, and it says bank service charges were $50. Bank service charges appear as a debit memorandum, which means we take them out of the depositor's accounts. The amount there for the bank service charge is $50. And if we go back and look, that concludes all of our differences in our accounts. And so our job now is to complete this bank reconciliation by first subtotaling our additions according to the bank records. And we had two additions, $27.55 and $255, for a total of $29.80. A subtotal at this point, our beginning balance plus our additions, is $10,528.25. We subtotal our subtractions from our bank records side. $14.96 plus $18 gives us $1514.90. And our ending balance is our subtotal of $10,528.25 minus $1514.90. Our ending balance, according to the bank records, is $9,013.35. If we move over to the depositor side, additions, we have two, $27.55 and $90. Those total out to $28.45. And our new subtotal after our beginning balance plus our additions is $95.63.35. Our subtractions from the depositor side are $550 for a total of $550, and $95.63.35 minus $550 gives us an ending balance of $9,013.35, which is exactly the same number according to our bank records. So we've now reconciled our bank account, and the next step here is to then journalize those entries which require journalization. And we know from our lecture that anything that occurred on the depositor side of the bank reconciliation here needs to be journalized. And we do that in two compound entries. One that records the additions to the bank side, and one that records the subtractions from the bank side. So the additions are going to debit cash. The cash account gets a total debit of $28.45. So debit $28.45. The two accounts that get credited here, one deals with this note that was collected and one deals with this errand that was recording. So let's deal with the note collected first. So we no longer have a note receivable. And remember, the face amount of that note was $2,500. We did earn some interest. The difference between the face amount, $2,500, and the amount collected is recorded as interest revenue. So that difference is $255 worth of interest revenue. And then finally we have to deal in this error in recording. And this was to XYZ Company. It was a check that we wrote to them. And so we had taken too much out of our accounts payable. We have to put some money back into accounts payable for XYZ Company. And that amount was $90. And if we add up our total credits here, we see that $28.45 is equal to our total debit there. And that's the compound entry to cover the additions to the depositor's records. Now we have to deal with these two subtractions according to the depositor's records. And we're going to credit cash, but we have to debit some accounts here. And so the first one is this non-sufficient fund check from ABC Company. They owed us some money. They sent us a check, and the check bounced. So we need to go back and reestablish our account receivable for ABC Company. And the amount there is $500. Bank service charges, as we talked in our lecture, we usually put bank service charges as a miscellaneous administrative expense. Individual companies may have other accounts that they choose to expense for the bank service charge. Particularly, they might have an account called bank service charges expense. But in our case, in your textbook, we will always charge bank service charges to miscellaneous administrative expenses. The amount there is $50, and then we're going to credit the cash account for $550. That concludes our discussion on bank reconciliation. I hope you found this useful, and be sure and view our sample problem, our demonstration problem on petty cash. Look forward to seeing you soon.